Okay. If you would be so kind as to make your way back to your seat, we're going to talk about the second new tool that you have available to you, which is Touch CMA. This is going to be the replacement for the CMA report builder that is currently in MyRE Cafe. So if that's what you're using now, you definitely want to pay attention to this so you know how to build your CMAs. Before we get started, though, I did want to point something out. I know Noreen had mentioned this earlier, but just to remind you, we've gotten through the toughest part of all the new tools. InTouch is by far the most complex of the systems. The setup process it has quite a few details that we need to take care of to get everything set up, but it's just a one-time thing. So now that we've gotten through most of that, we should be pretty good to go going forward using the system and learning how to use the tool. So you've gotten past the hard part. Congratulations. Now we're going to look at some of the fun stuff and the new cool things that we have available for you. So let's talk CMA, Touch CMA rather. It's the second tool in our powerhouse system. So again, you have those wheels that are on your table. We're looking at step 2 here, which is Touch CMA. We looked at InTouch earlier. That was our prospecting system. It's where our website is being hosted, and all of our drip campaigns are there so we can cultivate those leads. Once we've cultivated our leads and they actually want to meet with us, we need to have a CMA to bring them and sit down during our listing appointment to present to them. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Something that I want to point out about Touch CMA, which makes it, I think, super cool, is that it's not limited to just creating seller CMAs. We can create buyers presentations in here. We can do pre-listing presentations. We could do an open house presentation. The options are really endless in terms of what we can actually do with this tool. So I encourage you, as you learn to use this and familiarize yourself with the system, to get creative with it and see what new uses you can find to integrate a presentation into your business and how you can use that to market your services, your listings, and provide additional services to your clients. So let's talk about Touch CMA for a minute. Touch CMA is a real estate technology company. They're based out of Seattle, and they create business gaining tools. And they do that by leveraging rich MLS data, and then they converge a cloud computing system with social media and mobile technology, all those things that consumers are used to finding online and doing online. They consolidate those all into one single space. And the really neat thing about it is that Touch CMA works from any device. So I can start a CMA on my desktop or my laptop. And if I find myself at Starbucks sometime in the afternoon and I want to just so badly want to finish that CMA, I can go ahead and do that or make edits to it on my tablet or on my phone while I'm standing in the Starbucks line. So it's going to sync all the data in real time to every device that I'm going to be using, which means I can essentially create a CMA on the go and make updates to it anywhere that I'm at any point in time, which is really, really nice. Touch CMA's goal is to give real estate tools to professionals that make them relevant and savvy for consumers throughout the process of buying and selling a home. As you probably have noticed, the way that people are actually buying and selling their homes these days has drastically changed in the last few years. And so this tool has really been created to meet the needs of how consumers are actually experiencing the home buying and selling process. I'm going to meet them where they're at in a way that they're familiar with utilizing technology currently. So this tool is set up and designed to do that. Sticking in line with the, you're going to learn 5 things with every new platform that we talk about today. Today we're going to talk about your profile setup in Touch CMA. I think it's super important that you have a profile there and that your photo and contact information is all pulling correctly. We're also going to learn how to create a presentation in 5 simple steps. And we're going to look at the search screen. It's a little bit different than what you might be familiar with. So we're going to look at the different ways that you can actually conduct searches on that screen, some of which you're going to find pretty cool. And then we're going to learn how to create custom pages. And within those custom pages, we're actually going to learn how to embed a video there. I'm going to show you an example of a video within Touch CMA and why it might be something you want to look into actually adding to your own CMAs. And then we're going to show you how to do that. And then we're also going to look at creating a presentation profile so that you can use it over and over and over again. Does that sound good? Okay. So let's go live. And I'm going to show you what I like to call the souped up version of the CMA. It's got all the bells and whistles on it, so you can see what exactly this can do. And hopefully it'll get your creative wheels turning a little bit so you have some good ideas when you leave here. So let's play this video.
Hi Gary and Sue, Kim Powell over here at Coldwell Banker, and closes my marketing proposal. please go ahead and take a look at it, note any questions, and then when we meet later this week, we can go through it in a little bit more detail. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really hope to be working with you both.
Wouldn't it be pretty cool to add some sort of introduction to your CMA before you send it out to somebody so that they know what they're looking at, who you are, they get an introduction to what this entire presentation is going to be about? That's a pretty neat way to make yourself stand out from the other agents that are going to be submitting printed CMAs. So think of that as one of the first ways that you could use video. There's also a lot of other ways that video can be integrated into the presentation. And it certainly doesn't have to be on your first page. I will show you how to change around the order of your CMA too. This is what we call the cover page in your CMA. Again, these are all customizable pages, so if there's something you want to change about this page, you definitely can do that, or you can eliminate it from your presentation altogether, and we will walk through how to do that as well. There's a subject property photo, which we'll talk a little bit more about in detail in the coming slides, but this is a photo that's going to follow my subject property throughout the entire presentation. That said, I have the option to either import photos if I have a property that's already been entered into the MLS and there are photos there. I can take those photos directly from the MLS, or I can go ahead and upload my own. Maybe I have a picture that's even better than the ones that are on the MLS, or something else that I would like to use as a representative photo. I can go ahead and customize that as well. And of course, my agent photo will pull in here, and so will all of my contact information too. And that's all housed on the cover page, so somebody can get a hold of me. We have an introduction to what this report actually is. We're looking at a comparative market analysis. It's got information about me here again, the agent, so that somebody knows who to contact when they're interested in moving forward. And then there's a subject property summary page, and this is going to be where I enter all of the specifics about my subject property. So anything I want to include here about the property, I can. There's a nice form to fill out about your subject property in Touch CMA, and we will walk through that as well. Okay, so now we get to my the stuff I really love. So Touch CMA, what makes it so cool is all the charts and graphs that are included in here. So you'll notice that it marks out all of the properties that I've selected as comps for this particular presentation. And they're color-coded. So greens are active listings, my yellows are my pending properties, and my reds are those that have sold, right? And on my map, the colors correspond with the listings over here. But here's the really neat thing. If I click on one of these icons, it's going to open up the property detail page right from the map, and it keeps that person in your CMA presentation so they don't have to leave, go to another page, get lost, and never make it back to your CMA again. So any of these points on my map will in fact open up to that listing detail page. It pulls in every bit of information from the MLS, all of the photos, all of the remarks, all of that stuff comes in here. Now here's the other really cool thing. If you've ever gone to a listing appointment and you created your CMA at the office, you may have found that sometimes by the time you got to your listing appointment, the neighbor's house went on the market and you didn't know. So suddenly your CMA is out of date. You totally missed the fact that there's a comp that their client wants to include right next door. That's not going to happen here ever again with Touch CMA. As the statuses of your properties and your comps change, so do your charts and graphs. They're going to update the status of the property. They're going to update all the information that goes with how many days it was on the market, what the price was. All of that changes in real time. What really makes that great is that if I created a CMA and I sent it out to you, and you were on vacation for 2 weeks, if you opened up that CMA in 2 weeks, you typically would get a really old, stale CMA with lots of out-of-date data, and somebody would have to go back in, create another one, and send it over to you. In this case, with Touch CMA, when you open that CMA report that I sent you 2 weeks ago, when you open it, it's going to, in fact, update with all real live data from 15 minutes ago on the MLS, which is great. Yeah, woo! Yes, that deserves a clap. That was good. So you're going to see this a lot. I'm going to be talking about the charts and graphs a lot because I just think it's really cool as we go through. But just know that all of these things are, in fact, going to update in real time. So every status change is going to change. When things shift on the market in terms of pricing, so will your charts and graphs. It's going to keep you up to date and your clients up to date. On this listing detail page, if I click on any of these listings, again, it's going to direct me to the property detail page, again, pulling all of the information from the MLS, so anything that is uploaded there will, in fact, transfer over here too. Then we get into property comparisons, and I can, again, select as many comparables as I would like. However, just be aware that all of the pages here in this program are formatted to fit a tablet or your iPad screen, for example. So they're only going to fit your subject property and 3 comparable properties on a single page. But again, I can add as many as I would like. So in this case, I think I have 25 or 26 comparables. And they will always line up next to my subject property, so I can get a comparison based upon my subject property and any of the 3 comparables that are on my page. I was wrong, I had 23, not 25. There's also a comparable market information page, again, giving you just some side-by-side comparables. Charts and graphs, my favorite. Averages of comparables. You can select how you want to showcase your data on these charts by using the buttons at the top here. So this is looking particularly at actives, but if I wanted to see what was happening with pending listings, I can click on pending, and it will go ahead and reformat my charts and my graphs so that I'm only looking at data pertaining to the pending listings and comparables. Same with solds and others. Home prices and days on the market, again, this is going to change and update. As the market changes and updates, it's going to go ahead and do it here as well. All of these dots, again, represent a listing. So red dots are sold listings, green dots are active listings, yellow dots are pending. But if I click on any of those dots, it's going to take me to that property detail page. So if I'm wondering why this one particular listing is so far down on the chart compared to everything else, I can click into the detail page, get some more information about it, and make an assertion about why it is that is where it is on the graph. Same thing with home prices and square footage. Again, these will update in real time, and they will move around as the market actually changes and updates. There's a price summary page here where I can put in a range of value that I'm going to go ahead and give an approximate market value for the subject property. There's also an estimated pricing page, and we'll talk more about this when we go live into the actual product. Again, if these are pages you don't want to have in your presentation, it's as simple as unchecking the include box to get rid of them so they don't appear in my presentation any longer, and we'll show you how to do that. Then we have some Coldwell Banker pages that you are probably familiar with seeing in the CMA report builder. They're also part of the listing presentation, but they talk about the marketing capabilities that you have as a Coldwell Banker sales associate. There's some information on market share, the Coldwell Banker agent network and office network, strength in numbers. We love to talk about that. We have formatted some of the things that you're probably familiar with seeing in your CMA previously to fit the actual tablet screen now. So rather than being formatted to fit a page, which is vertical, we're formatting them horizontally to fit a tablet. So it looks good when you're showing somebody this presentation on your tablet device. We've also changed some of the slides around just a little bit so they're a little bit more graphically inclined and less copy heavy, especially since you're going to be showing it on a smaller screen most likely. You don't want to have a whole lot of copy there that's really hard or difficult to read. So we've tried to add some more graphics here. In addition to that, you can also create as many custom pages as you would like to in your presentation. So some examples of things like that, get through the socially connected pieces. All of those things that you're going to want to talk about in your listing presentation and all the marketing capabilities that you're going to be able to bring to your clients, and their listings are all in this presentation. So definitely take some time to review what's there, because you'll definitely want to talk to those points. But in terms of custom pages that I can add to my presentation, here's an example. I can add property postcard samples, things that I'm going to actually be sending out on behalf of the client and marketing their property. I might even create a custom page to showcase kind of the flyers and other collateral that I might be including in my marketing proposal to the client as well. I could give an example of the single property website that I can create through CB1, which you will all hear about shortly. And then there's also some Coldwell Banker pages that speak to pricing, pricing strategies, market value. Again, these are all pages that are built in, but you are more than welcome to turn them off with the click of a button, and we will definitely walk through that. You have an agent profile that you will set up when we go and talk through our profile setup, but this is where your photo is going to pull in. It will have your bio and all of your contact information. It's a page that is going to be included in this presentation as well. You might consider creating a custom page to showcase your testimonials. That would be entirely appropriate and definitely something you would probably want to include in this. I may even give my website a plug so that somebody knows where they can go to look at my active listings or any other information about me, or to search for any other properties they might be looking at. And of course, it's branded with Coldwell Banker and all of our branding so that it looks the way that it should. Let's go into Touch CMA now and take a look at how easy it is to actually create a presentation in just a few steps. So you should have been all logged into your gateway earlier. If you've logged out, you definitely want to log back in. And once you do, the tile that you're looking for is Touch CMA. And it probably lives somewhere else in your gateway than it does down here at the bottom of my screen, but this is the tile that you're looking for. Now, if you're just clicking on that tile for the first time, it's going to ask you for some information. It's going to want to know your name. It'll probably ask you what office you're a part of. And then it's also going to ask you which MLS are you a part of. And it's also going to want to know what your MLS ID number is. You definitely want to fill in those pieces of information because you need to be able to search for comparable properties. And we need to be linked to your MLS in order to make that happen. So please go ahead and fill in those fields. Once you've done that, you should arrive at this. I'm going to call it your dashboard. From here, you probably don't have a photo here yet, unless you have gone ahead and already added your profile information. You probably have a grayed out head, a placeholder for a photo. And in the bottom right corner of that placeholder is a little pencil icon, and that's what you're going to click on. And this is going to take you to a place where you can go ahead and update your bio and make sure that everything that's going to pull in your About page and any contact details that are going to show up are in fact correct. So the first screen you'll see when we come to our profile area is agent info. Definitely look over this information to make sure it is appearing correctly. When I came in the first time, my name was spelled incorrectly, something I definitely want to change before I send a CMA out to anybody. If you scroll down to the bottom of this page, there is an edit button. That's how you're going to unlock these fields to go ahead and make edits to your name, your phone number, all of that stuff. You do have to click the edit button. It's probably below the fold of your screen, so make sure you scroll down. After you click edit and you've made changes or added additional information, the edit button gets replaced with a button that says update. That is your save button, and you definitely want to click on update so that it saves your changes. The next thing we're going to look at in our profile is our office info, and you're just going to click on office info to take you there. While it's thinking, I'll tell you what you should be looking for on the Office Info tab. You want to make sure that you are in fact linked to the right office because your office info is going to show in your CMA. So if you have the wrong office in there, you want to edit that. Again, the edit button is at the bottom right of that page. So if you scroll down and click edit, you can change that info out. Just be sure that you click the update button so that your changes save. You can put in any email you want there. This is not linked to your InTouch system, so you do not have to use your cbintouch.com email address. You could put your website in there. Sure. You can use whatever address you want in there. Yeah. Yes. Yes. The next thing we want to look at is the tab that says Bio. You'll notice when you get to that screen, there are essentially 4 fields that you can add a bio to. Now, why on earth would I need 4 bios? I've got one that I use on my website and on my profiles. Why do I need more than that? Excuse me. Think about it this way. I might, for example, create a presentation that I'm only going to use at open houses. And when I bring this presentation to my open houses, I want whoever's going to be looking at it to have certain information about me. And that might be slightly different than the bio that I use when I'm talking to somebody who I already have an appointment with, who I'm looking at listing their home with. I might want to have some additional information about myself to share with people I've never met. So you can give yourself several different bios. Think about the type of presentation that you're going to be creating and using that bio for. But essentially, you can create 4 bios here to use for 4 different purposes. Or you could create just one, depending on what meets your needs best for your business. To do that, you need to click the Edit button, which again is at the bottom right of the screen. And then you're going to need to fill in 2 fields. You're going to need a title, and then you will paste your bio that you want to have showcased here into the content section. And then be sure to click the Update button so that it saves. That would be an enhancement, and we can definitely log that request. The last thing we want to look at with regard to our profile is the photo section. This is pretty important for all of us. A couple of things to note about photo. You're going to click the Edit button to upload your photo. So essentially, you'll click Edit. You're going to browse your desktop or wherever you have your photos saved on your computer or your device, and then you will upload that. There are a couple size dimensions you need to be aware of. It's a little picky in the system. Your photo needs to be at least 400 pixels wide, but it cannot be any larger than 800 pixels wide. So somewhere between 400 and 800 pixels is where your photo should be. If you need help sizing down your photo to the appropriate dimensions, please talk with your marketing coordinator. They can size that photo for you and send it back to you so you can upload it and not have any problems with sizes and dimensions. So talk to your marketing coordinator when you get back to the office if that's something that you need help with sizing your photo. Okay, so Touch CMA, our home button to get back to our dashboard is clicking on the logo at the top left where it says Touch CMA. When we click on that, it's going to redirect us back to the dashboard. And if you uploaded a photo, you should see your photo there now. If you haven't uploaded a photo and you decide to do it when you get back to the office, you should see it right away. Okay, so on the dashboard screen, when you come here for the first time, you probably won't have any presentations that are saved here. You might have a sample presentation, or you may have nothing. That's okay, either way. But what the point is that as you create CMAs, it's going to keep a log and an archive of every presentation that you have created here. So if I've created something for a client and I go and need to make an edit to it, maybe I need to add a different comp or something like that, I can always go back in, make edits to my presentation, and when somebody goes and opens that link, it will, again, repopulate with all of the new information that I have included in my CMA. So you can make edits in real time. This is going to be very helpful when you're sitting with a client maybe and you actually want to have the client help you with adding comps or talking through the process with you. You can always go back in and make edits right there using this little pencil icon next to your presentation. But today we're going to actually create a new presentation. So to do that, you're always going to go to this Start a New Presentation button, and we're going to click on it. You're going to get a pop-up after you click on that button, and yours might not say everything that you see mine saying. You might just see buyer and seller as options on yours, and that's totally fine. What that means is that you are only linked to one MLS. So the MLS that you're linked to, you can create a buyer presentation out of it, or you can create a seller presentation out of the MLS that you are, in fact, linked to. Now, if you're linked to multiple MLSs, you will see a list that looks more like this, and what it does is it puts the MLS in front of the buyer or seller, and I'm going to select the MLS that I actually want to pull comps from, and that's the one that I'm going to use to determine if I want to then create a buyer or seller presentation. So in this case, I'm linked to SFAR. I'm also linked to MetroList. And for this demo, I'm going to pull comps from SFAR, and I'm going to choose the SFAR seller presentation because that's probably what you're going to be using most frequently. So let's go ahead and create one of those. Okay, so we have 5 easy steps like we said earlier. The steps are actually logged here at the top of your screen. There's subject property, search, comps, estimate, and presentation. You can toggle back and forth between screens. None of your information is going to disappear if you go from one screen to the next. There's no save button. So if you get into a panic that you didn't click the save button, it's okay, it didn't exist. But just know everything that you're filling in here is going to save, whether you jump from my search screen to my subject property screen, everything's saved. So I can always go back and make edits without having to worry about losing my data that I've already input. So for my subject property, I'm going to tell the system who am I actually creating this presentation for. It's kind of a nice thing to include, so it's customized. I'm going to actually make this one for myself. And I can do two things in terms of getting my subject property info entered. If I have an MLS number for my subject property, I can go ahead and input or copy-paste that MLS number. And then you would click the copy button. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull in all the information that's about that property on the MLS, including all the photos that were uploaded there, the property details. It's going to plug in all the info for me so I don't have to do that. Chances are I don't have an MLS number if I'm creating this presentation for the first time. So I'm going to skip that section and jump down to the location field. And this is where I'm going to plug in my address. And for this presentation, I'm going to use 1811 27th Avenue, it's in San Francisco, and the zip is 94122. Okay, and it should pull up on the map where it is that I'm actually inputting my address. Something else to mention about the subject property. I had mentioned that if you had an MLS number I plugged in here, and it would actually pull in all the photos for me and pre-populate this space right here, which is my subject property photo. However, if I don't have a photo coming in from the MLS because I'm not using an MLS number, I can actually go ahead and add in an image here of the property if I have one, or I can put in any image that I would like to fill and have it follow around my subject property throughout my report. Or I can choose to just leave this, and anytime I the photo for that subject property. Scrolling down, there's a bunch of stuff I can fill in here about my subject property. In this case, I know it's a single-family home. It has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and there are 2,034 square feet. And this home was built in 1939. I can also plug in information about certain features of the subject property if I am so inclined. And I can include remarks here, and I'm not limited to 1 or 2 I could possibly imagine doing. It's pretty endless, so you can plug in as many remarks about the property as you would like to include. When I get down to the bottom, I'm going to click on Continue, but just so you're aware, I can click on Continue to get to the search. Okay, now let's talk about the search screen for a minute. A couple of things to point out here. The first, and probably the biggest thing I want to point out, is the map. When you are doing your CMAs now, you're probably using the MLS maps to pull your comps. Touch CMA is not linked to the MLS maps, and the reason for that is because that's not how users go about searching for things online. They're actually used to Google Maps, Bing Maps, things like that. So this system is actually built with Google Maps, right? So anything that you can search, or any way that you can search on Google on a map, is the same way that the search is built into here. And the reason they did that is because the consumer experience is much better if the consumer actually can work and navigate the tools without having a lot of hand-holding and explanation, right? So it's really to help with the user experience more than anything else. By default, when I come to this screen, it's going to plug in my subject property address right here. Is that I can conduct searches, and we're going to walk through them all. But the first one is going to be what you're going to default to when you come. So I'm on search, it's automatically populated my subject property address, and it's pulled up comps here in the general area. But I might find that that's really too many comps, it's too big of an area. Depending on where I'm at, it just might not work for what I'm trying to do. So there's a couple of different ways that I can narrow in what I'm actually searching for. The first would be to do a radius search. You have to make sure, if you're going to use any of these search functions here, that you toggle between the on and off buttons. If you don't do that, nothing's going to happen. So for example, I have to make sure that my search radius is on. And when I do that, the button click on, my drop down suddenly becomes live, and I can actually decide how big I want my search radius to be. So in this case, 2 miles is way too big. I'm going to narrow it down to 1 mile, and it's going to refresh all of the information in the comps that I'm looking to pull on my map. So I can now see it's taken out quite a few different comps. I'm getting down to a list that's a little bit more manageable. In some cases, that still might be too large. So you have a couple of other ways that you can actually do your searches. We can do a boundary search. If we click on, though, remember I have my address here. It's going to tell me that I can't actually do a boundary search with my address plugged in. So what does that mean? That means I can search for a boundary search under a zip code, or if there's a subdistrict or a neighborhood that I know of specifically, I can plug that in and it will allow me to create a boundary around that neighborhood or that zip code, and it will only pull comps within that boundary. If that's still too large, you have the option to go ahead and draw on the map. You've got the client that only is interested in properties around that 4-block radius. That is all they're concerned with, and you have the option to drill down that data to that 4-block radius, which is great. How we're going to do that is to click on the On button under Draw, and you'll notice this new quadrant of boxes that appears here. Let's talk about what all these things do. So the hand, which is the first button, thank you. The hand is the first button, and this is actually just going to help us to move our map around, right? So if we're not centered where we want to be, we can go ahead and center our map to wherever we would like it to be. Little button here says Draw a Shape. So this shape does not have to be limited to a square or a rectangle. This is the polygon shape. I can make it essentially anything that I would like it to be. I'm just going to do something weird and crazy, because I can. Right? So I can draw anything. I can make a boundary. I can make my own boundary around anything or anything that I would like it to be. If I decide that that's just absolutely not what I was looking for and I totally drew the wrong thing on the map, there's a nice X over here, and if I click on that, it takes away everything I've drawn. So I can essentially start over. I can redraw on my map, or if I've decided that a perfect square or rectangle is what I was looking for, I can draw a rectangle here, and I can pull in on just that specific boundary of how big or small I decide to make my rectangle or my square. Kind of cool? Cool, okay. So one thing you may have noticed, I'm down to 4 comps now, but it will keep a log of all the comps that it's able to pull based upon my search parameters. So there's a couple of things I can do here. In this case, I only have 4, so I could either say Select All, and that will automatically pull all 4 of these comps into my presentation for me. Or if I decide that maybe 2 of these are good comps, these are the 2 that I want to use, there is a box underneath every photo here that says Include Listing. It is light gray, but when I click on it, it gives a nice check mark, so I know that I have now gone ahead and this is included in my CMA as a comparable listing. I can do that for each listing here on the left individually. If I find that there's one, I maybe selected this one and suddenly I don't want it to be in my list of comps anymore, all I have to do is uncheck the box and it will go back to that light grayed out box. Couple of other things. There's a nice drop-down arrow here, and if I click on that, I get a whole bunch of other fields that are going to help me to narrow my search. What Touch CMA does by default is it took the fact that my subject property had 2 bedrooms, and it's averaging out comps in terms of what it thinks I might be looking for. So you'll notice my minimum bedrooms is set at 1, and my max is set at 3, right? Because my subject property had 2 bedrooms. So this might actually be pulling comps with 1 bedroom that I am not interested in. I absolutely don't want to have 1-bedroom comps. So I can select no minimum, I can select no maximum. There are many, many different options in here that I can play with to change around what types of comps are actually getting filtered in my last. And it defaults to 90 days. So anything that has had a status change in the last 90 days is what this system is looking to pull. If I want to go back further than that, I can go back as far as 36 months, or I can say all data. So anything that is available to be pulled as far back as it possibly can go in terms of comps. Sold listings, for example. If I want more sold listings, I might choose all data, so it gives everything to me. It's a great question. 36 months for sure, and it probably depends on the MLS and what their rules are for displaying solds. I'm not sure what it is out here. I don't work in Barry's, so I'm not entirely sure. Something to keep in mind, after you make changes here in this screen, you do want to click the search button to refresh your search so that your new criteria actually takes and pulls those different listings on your map. Okay, so let's talk about the other ways we can do a search quickly. We have what we call a drive time search. Has anybody heard of this? Okay, this is super cool. So you have a client. Everything's really cool. It really is, though, I promise. You have a client who says, I want to move within 20 minutes. I want a 20-minute commute to my job from my front door to the time it takes me to actually get to the front door of my office. Not a 20-mile commute, 20 minutes. It's really serious, right? So how am I supposed to find all those properties that are within 20 miles during commute time? Well, you go to drive time search, and this is going to solve all of your problems. You can select where you want to either go from or arrive at, what time you want to get there. So if I know I need to be there at 8:55 every morning, I'm going to plug in 8:55. And I want my commute to be 15 minutes only, and I need to be there at 8:55. And if there's certain things that I want to avoid, like a ferry, I might not want to get on the ferry, I can go ahead and select that as well. And that's going to pull comps that are only within that 20-minute commute or 15-minute commute, and that's the only comps that you're going to get in your list, right? So those are the only things you're going to be talking about with your clients, so that they know this is, in fact, how far and how long it's going to take me to get to and from work. The other way we can do a search is the MLS search. So if you have MLS numbers for comps that you want to use, you can go ahead and plug in those numbers here. Make sure you separate them by a comma so that it reads correctly in the system and not just one big, long MLS number. But you can go ahead and create your comps this way as well, and that will pull them up on the map. I'm going to select all of my comps here because I'm happy with all four. Hold on one second. Perfect. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down. Remember, I can either click on the next screen, or I can scroll down and click continue. Either way, it's going to take you to the same place. The comps screen is going to pull in all the comps that I selected to include in my CMA, and they're going to be listed out here. My subject property will always be on the top. And then it actually goes ahead and organizes my comps by pendings, solds, and actives as well, and others. So there's a list there. If I decide that maybe one of these comps would be better if it was a custom comp, I can either select to replace this comp that I don't want to include with a custom comp, or maybe I'm happy with all four comps here, but I want to add a custom comp in addition to that. And the way to do that would be to come up here and click on the Add Custom Comp button. And this is going to open a page that's going to be just like your subject property page where we filled in all the info with bedrooms, baths, year it was built, all of that stuff. You actually get to plug in the information yourself here. And that will add it to your comps list. If you need to make an adjustment to a comp, say the comp has a remodeled kitchen and the subject property doesn't, we need to account for the fact that this particular property is going to be listed at a lower price, we need to make that adjustment and we need to show why. So I click on the Add Adjustment button, and it opens up this pop-up where I can actually put my remark in there. So I can say, this has a remodeled kitchen, this has a remodeled bathroom, and then I can enter the dollar amount that I'm actually going to add or subtract adjustment for my subject property. I can always save and add another. If I have multiple remarks or multiple adjustments to make, I can do that as well. So either click Save and Add Another or the Save button to make sure that those remarks are saved and the adjustments are made on your comps. Once I'm happy with my comps, I've made any adjustments that I need to, I've added any custom comps, I'm going to click Continue to go to the next screen, which is Estimate. Everything you're going to see here on the left-hand side is just for your reference. It's to show you adjustments that were made on the comps to help you come to a value range for your actual subject property. At the top, you have an estimated pricing, the estimated market value. You have a range, so you can put in a minimum and a maximum here. And you can add some remarks about this as well. There's also a seller's net form. All I have to do is toggle back and forth between the two up here. You can see that's the estimated pricing. Seller's net form, I can also fill in information here too. You don't actually have to fill in anything here, so if maybe you're not ready to put any kind of pricing down on paper, you don't have to fill this in to continue working through the program. You can go ahead and just click continue. And this brings us to step 5. So steps 1 through 4 weren't that bad, right? You're all going to go play with it when you get home, and it's not going to be that bad, I promise. But let's talk about the output of the presentation, because this is where all the cool stuff happens. This is where you're going to want to know how to do custom pages and things like that. The first thing I want to point out here, there's a View Presentation button. This is how you're going to preview your presentation before you send it out, right? I would never send anything out without reviewing it, because I want to make sure it looks the way it should, it's functioning properly. So View Presentation is how I'm going to actually be able to preview this before I send it out to my client. Every page that is included in my report is going to live here. You're going to see some gray lines here. The first one's going to say selected. And selected is housing every single page that is in fact included in my report. Now if I find on these pages that there's something I didn't want to have, like, for example, we talked about the seller's net form and estimated pricing. Maybe those are two things I definitely don't want to include in this first meeting. To get rid of those pages from the report, all I need to do is uncheck these check boxes, and you'll see it's going to immediately take them out of my report. It's that simple. And you'll see at the top, just in case you forget what the check mark means, it's listed here. So include means that this is in fact going to appear in my report. If I don't want it to appear in my report, all I need to do is uncheck the check box next to that page, and it will make it disappear. Great question. That was what I was going to say next. Great. Okay, so where do my pages go? Now that they've disappeared, I want them back. If you keep scrolling, I was talking about those gray bars. The second gray bar you'll see is called Report Pages. Report Pages is where any page that you have gone ahead and said, I don't want this included in my report, that's where they go. And they hide there until you say, I want them to come back. So under Report Pages, I want to put my estimated pricing page back in. All I need to do is click on the little checkbox once again. You'll see it takes it out of Report Pages. And if I click on Selected to see all the pages that are now added in my presentation, the very last page that populated there is that page that we took out, Estimated Pricing. Now, right now, it's actually behind my back cover with all of my Coldwell Banker branding. It's probably not the best place to put my estimated pricing, just a wild guess. So how do I change that? Very simple. There's an arrow. It's an up and down arrow here on the left-hand side of every page. If I put my mouse over that, it turns into a 4-way arrow, right? I can click down on my mouse, and I can drag that page anywhere that I want it to be within my presentation. So this is where we were talking about changing the order of your presentation. Maybe you want your bio page to be the very first thing that somebody sees when they open up the presentation. You're totally able to do that. You just have to move that page from the bottom up to the top. And again, to do that, we're just going to click on the little arrow, and we're going to drag that page to the place we want it to be within our report. Easy enough? It's not bad. Okay. Now here's the really fun stuff. Creating custom pages. Who wants to include testimonials in their CMA? Yeah, I think so. Who wants to include video? Somebody raise their hand. Yes, okay. This is going to be your best friend. Create custom page. It's a button towards the top of your screen. And you're going to click on that. There we go. Okay. So you have a lovely text box here. And this text box you can paste in copy or text. You can go ahead and embed photos in here, or we can add video. If you're looking to add a photo, you're looking for this button right here. It looks like 2 mountains and a sun. And that's how you would browse to find the photo on your computer. You would upload it, and it would embed it right here into the text box. Video is slightly different, so let's walk through how to do that, because you may find it's a pretty cool tool to use. You may want to actually use it. So the first thing we're going to do is go to YouTube. or wherever we have uploaded our video to. I do recommend YouTube because you get some extra Google juice. With your search engine optimization, Google owns YouTube, so they give preferential treatment to YouTube videos in search results. It's a really, really great tool to use if you're looking to build your digital footprint. Once you've uploaded your video, we're just going to use YouTube as our example today, to YouTube, you're looking for this little button here that says share. It looks like 2 bars and a sideways V with 3 little prongs. When I click share, I'm going to see something here. It's a link. It's not a very pretty link. And this is not, in fact, the link that we're even looking for. This is the link that if somebody were to click on the video on, say, Facebook, it would shoot them over to my YouTube page so they could watch my video on my YouTube channel. Again, with a CMA, I really don't want somebody to be redirected off of my CMA presentation to YouTube. I want them to stay in my report so that they can look at everything that's there. So to do that, you're looking for what is called the embed code, and it's this little extra link right here. It's an even more hideous link than the other one was, but it does magical things. There's a couple things I want to point out here that you definitely want to do if you're going to include video in your CMA. So take some notes. Here we go. The first one is to make sure that the size of the video is the largest it can possibly be. If you choose any one of these, it's going to actually put your video at the top of the page, and it's going to be really teeny weeny. And it's going to look funny because it's not formatted to fit the page properly. So make sure you choose the largest size video available to you. The other thing you're going to want to make sure that you check before you go ahead and copy that really long link, by default, when you go to share this video and go to embed, it's going to have this first checkbox marked off, and it says, show suggested videos when the video finishes. Have you ever watched a video on YouTube or somebody's website, and it was a great video about dogs, and suddenly when the video ends, it suggests watching all these other videos about crazy stuff and all kinds of things. It could be anything, right? Like not PG-related stuff. So you don't want to have that show up at the end of your video in your CMA when your client's looking at the videos, and then all of a sudden, all these other videos that have nothing to do with real estate, nothing to do with your business, are suggested to them to watch. You could actually scare clients away by doing that. So make sure you uncheck this box before you copy that code. And this means that when somebody's watching the video in your CMA presentation, when the video finishes playing, that's it. That's all they're going to see. They're not going to get suggested videos for random things. After you've done those 2 things, you're going to come back up here to this code. It starts with iframe. And I'm going to copy that code. And I'm going to come back here. Now there's a magic button in this particular platform that you're going to want to click on if you want to embed things into your presentation. And again, embed means we want them to stay on our presentation while they're looking at the video or while they're looking at the photos. And that magic button is the source button. If you're a little bit more tech savvy and you've heard of HTML, HTML is essentially the source button. That's the same thing. It's going to do the same thing. And I'm going to paste my code in here. And remember, it's horrendously long. It doesn't look pretty, but it does magical things. And I can make sure that it's going to do the right magical thing by clicking the preview button after I paste that in. And you're going to see my video is going to play right there in my CMA. So nobody's going to jump off this page and go to my YouTube channel. They're going to be able to watch my video right there on this page of my presentation. When you're satisfied with how that looks, you want to be sure to save all so that your page actually saves. If you don't click save, everything you just did was for nothing. So make sure you click the save button. What that does down here, there is a nice, it's the 3rd gray bar, it's called My Pages. And any custom pages that you create, any video pages that you create, they're all going to be logged here under My Pages. So I know that I just uploaded that particular video, so I'm going to check to include this custom page in my presentation. And now when I go back to selected to see everything that I have included in my presentation, I will see my custom page here at the bottom. Again, I probably don't want my video to be after my back-end cover page, so I'm going to move it up right underneath my agent info page. So that'll be the last thing that somebody sees before they get the branded Coldwell Banker back cover. Okay, a couple of other things to point out here. You can upload PDFs to this presentation. You can actually upload multiple pages of PDFs at one time. So if my PDF is 5 pages long and I click Upload PDF, it's going to separate all my pages out into 5 separate pages or 5 separate slides that are going to be added to my presentation, right? Who likes to print their CMAs? You can all raise your hand, it's fine. Okay, so you still have that option. You don't lose that functionality here. View print PDF is how you're going to actually get to that. It generates a PDF right here online for you so you can see what it in fact looks like. You would then want to save that PDF so that you have it. You can send it, excuse me, as an email attachment. Or I can go ahead and print it out directly from here too. There's a print button. There's also a save button. So there's my print, and I can save it as well. Now, if we really want to get fun with it and we want to share our digital presentation because we added video and lots of cool stuff and we really want our charts and our graphs to update, oh yes, if you print your CMA, please be aware, your charts and graphs are not going to update automatically. Your data is not going to refresh in real time. It's just not going to happen. Your video is not going to play. There will be a nice placeholder for it, but it's not going to be interactive and fun like you think it is. So if that's what you're looking to show your clients is all the cool stuff, you want to click the email button. And we've set it so that it defaults to automatically send the digital version of the presentation to your clients. So you don't have to do anything extra to send the interactive dynamic presentation. But you might want to actually send a PDF version of that as well so they can see here's what we started with today, here's all the interactive activity that's happened, here's been the status changes. They can have both formats. And I can totally do that. I just need to make sure that I click to send PDF as well. If you want to send just the PDF and you're not worried about sending the digital stuff, totally fine. Just uncheck send presentation. Okay, so you have both options, or you can send both at the same time. No matter which you decide to send by email, you're definitely going to want to fill in a few pieces of information. The first of which is we need to have somebody we're sending this to, so it could be your client or yourself, depending on where you want it to go. You can enter multiple email addresses here. Just be sure that you separate them by commas so that the system knows how to read the email addresses. You're definitely also going to want to have a subject line, probably something that doesn't scare the person from clicking on the link to open the email, but something that explains to them that they're getting a CMA and they should open it. A salutation or a greeting. And then definitely include a message so I don't get a blank email with a link that tells me to look at this and I have no idea what it is. Give me some background about what I'm looking at. If you're not going to include an intro video like we saw in the sample that we looked at earlier, this would be a really good place to explain all of that information here. This is the presentation. We can talk about it more in person when I see you. But something that lets them know what, in fact, they're going to be clicking on when they click on that link, so it's not a free-for-all. And then last but not least, you have the option down here. It defaults to actually send a copy of what you're sending out to your client to yourself. You can absolutely uncheck that if you don't want to get a copy, but I definitely recommend leaving it checked off because you want to be able to go back and reference what the heck your client was looking at when they come to you and say, well, what about this? And you have no idea what they're talking about. It's probably a really great idea to make sure you are up to date on all the stuff that they're looking at. So I would definitely recommend to select a copy yourself here. And then you would click send, and that's going to shoot off an email. It's branded with Coldwell Banker's information and all of your info there, and then the link to the actual digital presentation is there as well. Okay, so let me go back to my slides really quick because I have some other stuff to show you. Okay, so we talked about the fact that you can do this on an iPad, you can do it on a desktop, laptop, tablet, whatever you want to do it on. But there are a couple differences that you should be aware of as you're trying to think which device you're going to do things on. The web version is really, really great, I think, to start your CMA on. It's got typically a larger screen, so it's a little bit easier for you to navigate and to draw your searches and things like that. But you can also create quick flyers from the web version. You can organize and create your custom pages there. You can upload a PDF, and you can also select to create a presentation profile to use over and over again. There is an iPad app that is going to be available June 15th. It'll be in your App Store or your, your App Store. It will be there, so you can go in and look for Touch CMA and download the app. That will give you a nice little shortcut on your device that you can go ahead and access from anywhere. But that will allow you to make edits to your presentation from any place that you're at, as long as you're connected to your Wi-Fi. You'll still be able to draw on your maps, draw boundaries. Another nice feature about the iPad app, if you're not in a place when you're showing this presentation where you're going to be able to be connected to Wi-Fi so that the data is refreshing, you can actually select to turn off data refresh so that it doesn't slow everything down and you're not sitting there waiting for things to refresh and it's never going to happen. So you have that option to help make your presentation go more smoothly. So check out the app on the 15th. That will be available to you. One of the other really great things about Touch CMA is that they have a really, really robust help center. So a couple of things to note about that. Whenever updates are made to the Touch CMA system, when you go to Touch CMA, it will actually give you a pop-up right when you get there, and it'll probably have a nice video and some text about what updates have been made to the system so you know there's new capabilities, new things that you can be using. It will walk you through how to do all of those different things. There's also this wonderful link here, which you don't have to write down because we're going to send you the presentation so you will have it on hand. But this has a lot of different training videos that are available. It's got everything from setting up your profile to how do I navigate the search screen. Everything that we've been through today is in one of those videos, and they're short videos. They're like 5 to 7 minutes. So it's definitely worth your time if you're needing a review on any one of those different topics. Definitely take some time to look at this link after you get it when we send you out the recap today. Touch CMA also has a help center. Again, you will get this link as well, but feel free to take a look at the resources that are there and get some support. They're very responsive, and I think you'll find that there's a lot of really good support for the program. In addition to that, CB1, which we'll be talking about next, there is a nice keyword search field there, and I think they mentioned this earlier too. But if you do a keyword search for Touch CMA in this search field right here, which you'll see shortly, there will be a lot of resources there for you on the platform as well to help walk you through how to navigate the system. If you find that you do need some additional assistance with Touch CMA, you can always call the help desk. The number is here. And then Touch CMA also has their own support line. The number is here. You will get this in the slides that we send you as a follow-up as well. So there's 2 levels of support to help you. We've got the help desk, and then Touch CMA actually has their own help desk as well. Okay, so here's the fun part. If you were following along with me, you now get to go hands-on for a few minutes. The first person who actually creates a CMA that has a subject property and 5 comps and 1 custom page or video page, if you can send that presentation, email it to kim.powell@westrsc.com, is going to get a really nice credit to the direct mail company that we partner with of their choice. So either to CoreFact, Express Docs, or Impact Marketing. So get going and send your CMA over to Kim Powell, and then we will let you know who wins in just a few minutes. We should have like Jeopardy music going. Kim's here, so she's going to say as soon as she gets one who the first person was. Are you part of SFAR?
No.
That's
So
fine.
is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm not part of yours. That's why I had to use that.
I just want to make sure that was the key.
Yes.
That there wasn't something like the ID I was waiting for.
Nope, you're good. Way to go on the music. Love it. It's the catchiest little tune. Brian Ledick. Brian's our winner. Woo! Brian, we're gonna hook you up with the direct mail vendor of your choice. Awesome. Okay, so that's all I had. That was Touch CMA. Who's gonna use it? Who's gonna add video to their presentation? I've got a couple that are trying. We're gonna hold you to that. It's gonna be an awesome tool. Next, you're going to hear, Claudia's going to come back up. She's going to talk to you about CB1. It is your new internet system. Think of it as the we're going to have a 2-minute break. But think of it as your new, think about the marketing section in Myery Cafe, but it is way more robust, and it's going to be much more helpful to you and easy to navigate. So take a 2-minute break, and then when we come back, Claudia will talk to us about CB1 and let you get in there and start exploring.